Welcome back, Dodecadorks. We're the 12-sided guys. We have Jordan as Mawgrim.
Oh, I love you, guy.
And me,
Just
Paul,
the
one. Wait a minute. What? Jordan, but no Scott, Matt, or Sabrina? What the what?
I killed them.
Well, if no one else is going to... Jeez. Well, if no one else is going to show up, then mayhaps we should just delve into some player character backstory.
Bam, bam, bam.
But before we do, don't forget to check out our Patreon for some bonus content like our after show and our wiki. And of course, go and leave a rating and a review because we know you love what we do. Anyway, if you ever woke up on a desert island and accidentally killed your fellow castaway by giving him easily catchable, slow-moving fish, then this podcast is for you. It's Chorus of the Forsaken, episode 70, Mawgrim, the mystery of his history.
Oh, I love the title. Oh my gosh, dude. Final Fantasy. I'm going to say 3. I know it's 6,
Yes.
but I'm an American. So
That's
I'm going
right.
to just say it's 3. Gosh, that whole little like the fact that the guy died, like, well,
Yes.
I had no idea what was going on. I don't know how many times I like tried to replay that one thing to be like, man, how do you keep this darn guy alive?
Yes. Oh, I didn't realize you could keep him alive because you'd walk out onto the beach and there'd be one slow-moving fish. You're like, oh, I got to give him some fish. And then you realize, no, you just walk back and keep going back till you see a fast fish. And then it's a healthy fish and then he'll actually survive. Yeah, that was mind-blowing where it was like, I had never played a game like that where it wasn't spelled out really. It wasn't really like handheld that you can change the story right now. Especially because the fish weren't even in your inventory. They were like key items instead. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
Oh man. Yeah, that game alone was just wild, dude. I had the I don't know how I got it. I think somebody like gave it to me at some point, but I had the unofficial strategy guide. And it was like a textbook. It was like 1.5 inches or 2 inches thick of just like all the monster stats and tricks and tips secrets of that game. I was blown away by how deep that content was.
Yeah. Hey, I know this is not why you guys are tuning in, but I've got a quick question for you if you remember this, because I never figured this out and I never had the player's guide and I haven't looked it up online. You remember Siegfried or Siegfried, the treasure hunter who keeps showing up?
Yeah.
Did he do anything besides just show up and then run away? Kind of? Like, was there anything more to him?
I think you fight him in the world of ruin.
You do. I think he shows up in the Colosseum potentially.
Yeah.
But there's no like.
And I
more
think he's got. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any like actual backstory, which is kind of weird because he seems like a cool dude.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, hey,
that's it.
Let's jump on in. We are in the world of Via Severia, but we're in the past. We are a couple of decades in the past at this point, probably maybe even more. Mawgrim, or I guess Jordan. You're Jordan. You're not Mawgrim. Jordan. So we know a little bit about your backstory, but we're going to delve into some more of the events that made Mawgrim into the Mawgrim that we all know and love.
Oh, shucks.
We're going to start by going to a city. This city is, it's relatively large. It is on the edge of Pythian Barony, on the eastern edge. It is a city called Viktor. Viktor is a large city, not a metropolis like the size of Kladvina, but still a very large city. It features all the amenities that you would expect in a city. Viktor is home to one of the colleges of the Krahennest. The Krahennest is an order of Aeonan worshippers, but they're a little different than the other sort of sects of Aeona. They are a college as well as an inquisition. They fill multiple roles, as we've learned throughout the story so far. We know that there are nighthawks, there are night owls, and there are crows. These three different groups of the Krahennest. But we are delving further back into Mawgrim's story. Mawgrim, you're a student. Can you tell us about the Krahennest chapter house and the school where you were attending?
Yeah, so Mawgrim is from the Krahennest, or is from he's from the Pithrian barony. He's not from the Krahennest. His family kind of, the idea for Mawgrim, his backstory a little bit, is that his family was kind of middling importance, not really a like noble family, but not necessarily the rabble, so maybe had wealth at one point and over the generations had lost a lot of influence and wealth. But there was still some privilege. And one of those privileges was that Mawgrim had the ability to attend the College of Viktor and receive some more formal education, which normally might not be allowed or afforded to many other people throughout the barony. And while he was there, he did things that many other people would have done while away at essentially what would have been like a college boarding school for people for like more higher education. He made a lot of friends, and there was the Krahennest kind of fraternal order, the chapter house that was there, which was a pretty prominent society within the college. And, for Mawgrim, I think that it would have been unmistakable the influence and the respect that he would have seen other like Krahennest members receive within this organization, within the college itself. So, it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody went to a college that had a fraternity or something like that, like a frat house of some sort.
Lambda.
Nice. Is that the one that you
No, that was Revenge of the Nerds. Terrible movie. It does not hold up. Don't watch it.
I've never seen it, but I'm familiar with it, but
yes,
never actually took the time. Sounds like I shouldn't take the time to see that.
I would not. It's quite well. Anyway, we don't need to. We're getting off topic. So you're at the college in Viktor, and there is this Krahennest chapter house.
Yeah, the idea is that, like, especially for younger, newer students, you're trying to get the lay of the land kind of politically, understand, who are the cool people, who has the power, who, whatever, like, who are people paying attention to, who are the popular kids. And pretty undeniably, anybody who is a member of the Krahennest chapter house has quite a bit of importance in the college, including how a few of the teachers are Krahennest members themselves. And you can usually tell that because they carry some sort of an emblem or some symbol of the raven. Now, some of them have a straight up mask. Some might have like a necklace or a ring. It all kind of depended on, what their affiliation was or maybe where they came from. But you could always kind of tell who was a member of the Krahennest.
Okay. And an important part of Krahennest society at this college also was on top of all the research and the studies and the whatever else went on at the college, there was also this dueling that took place, correct?
Yeah. So as a fraternal organization, there's a lot of these like ideals that that become kind of like the tenets or the philosophies that fraternal order kind of sees as virtuous. And some of those were bravery and courage and things like that. And over the centuries of this fraternal order kind of being established, the practice of doing like saber dueling, where people would like stand kind of at a fixed distance apart, like an arm's length apart. And the idea was that you're doing very fast, fluid movements, kind of striking with these sabers at each other, not with the intent to like kill one another, but the intent is to like wound the other person, sometimes cutting them on the face or the top of the head or the cheek. But it was kind of a symbol of bravery, right? And when you were scarred, that was like a sign of honor for a member of the Krahennest, that you were brave, you stood your ground, and you were not scared of stepping into the ring and dueling. And so it was a kind of a rite of passage, something that often, members would engage in a handful of times during their time at the college, and sometimes getting little nicks and scars as a result of it. And they would almost have those as a badge of honor, like a badge of like the courage that they bore.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to explore a little bit of Mawgrim's college days. We're going to jump ahead to the day of Blatung. Mawgrim, you are sitting in a long, it's an empty lecture hall. There is a long table. You're sitting on this bench. You have some books in front of you. You have some papers that you're scribbling on. You're trying to get caught up with some of this workload that you have here at this College of Vetgard. As you're sitting there, you see it's nighttime. It's you've been studying late into the evening, probably around 10 o'clock, 10:30. You might be ready to turn in relatively soon when suddenly the door at the far end opens and you see somebody come in the black ulster cloak, black ulster coat and leathers of a member of the Krahennest, not like an initiate, but like a full member of the Krahennest. He walks in, you see he has his mask hanging at his belt. He looks around, he's got blonde hair, he's got these brown piercing eyes, he's got sort of a musketeer type mustache and beard, and as he looks around, he glances over and he sees you, Mawgrim. You recognize this is a member of the Krahennest named Tarion. And Tarion is somebody that you see at the college here in the Krahennest chapter house quite often as he makes his way over to you.
I think Mawgrim would like seeing a full-fledged member, when you're here at the chapter house where you're normally surrounded by like other pledges or other initiates. It's probably a little bit of like, oh, somebody important. Like, so Mawgrim, I think, is kind of clued in. He probably sets his quill down and is paying attention and just watching very carefully what this guy is doing, where he's going.
You hear his boots click across the stone floor. It almost echoes around this empty lecture hall as he approaches your table and he steps in front of you and he says, "Viktor Mawgrimski?"
Yes, I am Viktor.
Are your blades sharp?
Yes. This evening, I did not know that there was going to be any kind of an event. Are we dueling this evening?
Bring them. And then he turns around and starts walking now.
Without taking his eyes off of Tyrion's back, I think Mawgrim would like hurriedly start swiping parchment and his inkwell and all these other things into his satchel bag. And he would kind of hustle over to the side where he has his own cloak and probably his like saber, which is maybe like not a curved saber, but a single bladed straight saber that's in like a sword cane kind of thing.
Okay.
And so he'd grab that and then hurriedly probably follow after.
As soon as Tarion hears you kind of, because he's just walking along, he's leaving you in the dust, but you catch up to him. You catch up to him relatively quickly, and then as you kind of fall in step with him, he says, "Viktor, we've been watching you, and you've shown that you have the tenacity, the intelligence, and the curiosity for the Krahennest." He says, Tonight is your night. And then he leads you across the campus. Do you want to ask him anything as he takes you out of this building and across kind of an open quad park area and between two other buildings? Is there anything you want to ask him as he is taking you somewhere?
Man, that's a good question. I think, Mawgrim is probably like bubbling over with questions, and at the same time, he's probably like don't ruin this, like don't don't.
From what I've heard of Mogrim's backstory already, there's already been some like I don't want to say close calls, but some potential missteps that Mawgrim managed to avoid in the Krahennest already, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all felt like for him, it's felt like a kind of a massive test ever since the beginning. So, maybe within his first year at the College of Vetgard, he and a bunch of his like dorm mates, roommates, and friends all were vying to try to become initiates of the Krahennest, right? And they even were able to attend like a massive like beer hall opening day kind of initiate festival thing, and they all thought that that was them being accepted into the organization. But then they found like shortly after that, no, they were all being kind of watched. They were all being monitored, being reported on even without their like realizing it. And one by one, they would all kind of get eliminated and be disinvited from the program, from being an initiate. And so Mawgrim has not been disinvited, which for him was like, a rare and lucky thing. Many of his friends didn't make the cut. Many, had moved on or finished school. And because he was studying medicine and health, he had to stick around for a bit longer. And so he had this opportunity to potentially excel. So he is like gobsmacked. He's like very excited at this, that this is finally happening.
All right. Well, very good. He takes you. You follow Tarion as he takes you to the Krahennest chapter house itself, and he takes you in. There's a chapel that you walk past. You can see that there are the dormitories where you stay. Kind of your room is here in the chapter house. You see there are other people. This late at night on a college campus, there's always somebody sort of finishing their studies or going to meet their friends or something. You see this a little bit, but you are taken to this double door in this large building that is kind of set down beneath the ground. You actually have to step down 6 steps before you get to these doors. Tarion takes you to these doors and then opens them wide. And on the other side, you see the dueling hall. You see it is this large barrel vaulted, almost cathedral, but like dark. If a cathedral, instead of being all light and airy, if it was very, I guess the only way I can describe it is more Romanesque, right? The thicker stone, more castle-like, but still with this arched roof. You see that there is a chandelier with lit torches hanging from the ceiling. There's even a window on one side. There's a gallery around the top so that people can stand up on the top and look down onto the dueling grounds. And you see that there are weapon racks that are empty. You see that there is, some benches kind of pushed off to the side. I think the first thing you notice, Mawgrim, having been here before, the stones in the center of this dueling ground, you can see, just because of the way that the Krahennest does their dueling, you see the very peculiar wear pattern of countless feet standing in one position as 2 people face off against each other without kind of moving their feet. And so you see this kind of worn down area where most of this dueling takes place. The room is almost completely empty. You see Tarion comes, he kind of leads you in at towards the center of this room where you see 2 other figures. You see that there is this sort of thin, I'd say kind of the best word to describe them is gangly, right? They're not exactly like super tall, but it's almost like they have no meat on their bones. They are wearing like a black tunic and some black pants. You can see they have like a leather dueling vest that they have over their chest. And they are kind of looking around the room with wide eyes. This is someone you've never seen before, but the person standing next to them, you have definitely seen. you see Fallon. He is the long fader, the kind of the leader of this chapter house. He is standing there, and he's not addressing this gangly youth with the leather dueling vest on. He is watching as you approach, and as you get about 10 feet from him, Tyrion stops, and I think you just instinctively know to stop. And Fallon says, Viktor Mawgrimski, this is Celador. Tonight, one of you will move on from being an initiate. But of course, we can't always rely on the sharpness of our intelligence or our wit. We must sometimes rely on the blade. And tonight, you will show which of you deserves to move on and become a full brother of the Krahennest.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, I think for Mawgrim, all of this would feel very strange because, he's done maybe 3 duels or so at this point in his time. But usually these were like kind of raucous, like lots of revelry, tons of drinking, probably right beforehand. And then there'd be a series of these duels. And, after somebody would, draw blood, there would be like, they would stop the bout. The 2 duelers would like, hug each other. They were usually friends, and they would like drink some more and pat each other on the back. It was a lot of like backslapping kind of fraternal type of behavior. So to have this be done almost in secret, or not in secret, but just like not having it be a positive, cheerful event is really strange for Mawgrim.
This person that you're going to be facing off against, Fallon speaks up and he says, this is Celador from the Krahennest chapter house in Cladvina.
Celador, it's an honor. I wish you the best of luck, and may your blade be sharp. And he'll kind of do like a little nod salute and start, prepping his gear.
Okay. Why don't you make an insight check as you make eye contact with Celador, who does not say anything to you in return.
Okay. So I rolled a 22 on insight.
Whoa. Okay. You sense fear and anticipation from Celador, but the fear is powerful.
Interesting.
Right? This is yes.
Yeah, I mean, there was always like there was always fear and like anxiety over doing this because you're stepping into the ring with the intent of basically getting cut. Like on the face too. Like this was a scary thing.
But and also potentially one of you won't be continuing on with the Krahennest as well.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like mind too.
Yeah, there are stakes involved in this that are high. And then normally it's like if you're dueling with people that or friends of yours, that they're not going to like try to seriously hurt you or maim you. And this isn't that. Like this is a stranger. And there's now the potential of like your future hangs in the balance. So yeah, this is going to feel really weird. Like I think Mawgrim is like, he can sense that person is probably very anxious and fearful. And he probably himself is starting to feel like kind of fear and panic.
All right, very good. Fallon says, take your positions and I shall give the invocation. And then as you two stand on these spaces, these worn out stones that have seen countless, maybe even centuries of feet of people dueling here in this chamber, the Fallon, the long fader, the leader of this chapter house, he gives a quick prayer, and he says, Aeona, guide these 2 that we might know who is more worthy to join your ranks and to proceed in the holy order of Krahennest. And then he looks at both of you and he says, begin. I'm going to have you roll initiative.
Okay. I guess we take the first one, which would be a 1 for a 3.
Oh gosh. Well, Celador gets to go first. He rolled a 7. So here's what he's going to do. He's going to try to strike out at you with this saber as he swings. That is going to be, that's going to be a 17. Does that hit you?
Yeah, that would hit.
Okay. And that is going to be 2 slashing damage. I mean, he is basically, we're going to call this not slashing. This is as he's trying to get in your guard. Basically, the way that we'll call this is that as you lose hit points, it's really just you're losing your ability to defend yourself as well as you tire. So 2 points of tire damage. All right, it is your turn. Yeah, it's your turn as he is not moving, and he does not have a bonus action to do.
Yeah, that is kind of scary. Yeah, so he's Mawgrim, I think, is going to be taken aback at kind of the intensity of the attack there, and is immediately on his guard. Normally there's like kind of this. It's almost a dance, more than it is like a brutal, intense fight, and this is turning into what feels like more of a fight. So he'll strike back with his kind of rapier. He only gets a 10 to hit on this one.
A 10 will hit. I was going to say, too, that it doesn't even take an insight check to recognize that this must be a different style of fencing or something. This he's been trained differently. This is definitely an aggressive posture as he comes towards you, and a big, like, swinging, like a big hacking slice at you. Okay, so yeah, but a 10 will hit. Go ahead and roll some damage.
Okay. Ooh, almost max, 8 damage.
All right. I imagine you get the sword in, you slide it up, it goes along his arm as you're trying to get in towards his face, but he manages to, at the last minute, bat it aside before it can hit him on the face. He is going to now swing back at you, and that is going to be an 18 to hit. So that's going to hit you again.
Yeah, that'll hit.
Okay, and he is going to deal, a whopping 1 damage.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I think though that's still shocking to Mawgrim because normally you draw blood and then it's done, and this guy is continuing to press the attack, and so Mawgrim is gonna return in kind and make another attack at this guy.
Okay,
13 to hit.
That will hit,
and this is another 5 damage.
Okay, this guy, he is, as you strike him and you slice kind of a little line across his cheek, you see the blood dripping down, and that is a clean strike. You know that with normal duels, like, that's it. You're done. This is over. You have won this duel. Mawgrim, he suddenly takes a step forward and tries to barrel into you and swings at you again, this time only with a 10. Does that hit you?
That will not hit.
Mawgrim, you see in his eyes, you see anger and you see pain and you see this grimace of desperation as he comes at you. It is your turn.
Okay. Mawgrim got a 12 to hit. I think this is him kind of trying to parry the barrel, like the bum rush that this guy's levying at him.
Yeah, that'll hit. Roll some damage.
Another 8 damage.
What goes through Mawgrim's head as he realizes that as this man, Celador, runs towards you, you get your sword up in time to ram him through the chest?
I think, initially it's the panicked sensation of like he needs to protect himself, right? So he's maybe bringing his blade in between him and his attacker almost as a purely defensive maneuver, but with this guy not standing his ground but kind of barreling in towards Mawgrim, it like inevitably is going to result with this guy just burying the tip of that sword deep into his chest. And I think that's like, it's that overwhelming sense of like, no, like it's like a train that's moving, without his ability to stop it. And so there's like a panic to it.
Okay. As the sword slides into his chest, you can see it poking out the back of his, between his shoulder blades. And Fallon comes running up. No, 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 no! And you step back, and Celador falls off your sword, and he is dead. Fallon looks at you. He's like, "What, Victor? What? We don't fight. What did you do?" You can see that Tyrion is also sort of like pacing around. He goes up to check on Celador's pulse, and he looks up at Fallon and he kind of shakes his head.
Yeah, I think Mawgrim, like, blood is probably running down, his own face from some of the initial kind of grazing attacks that Celador had hit him with. But at this point, Mawgrim functionally was like a child. He was like in his he's maybe like 20 years old, right? And 20 years old, maybe that doesn't seem like you're not that young, but for some people, like 20 years old, you still feel like you've barely seen life. And I think he's feeling like, I'm barely getting started in life, and now my life is over. Like I just killed somebody. Like I'm going to go to jail. Like they might put me to death. Like it's going to hurt my family. My family could be ruined because of this.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like his whole world is crashing down around him right now.
Fallon steps up to you as Tyrion is trying to trying to get the blood to stop pumping out of this guy's chest. Fallon grabs you by the shoulders and he says, Victor, what you did here today, don't worry. We'll take care of it. He wasn't from here. No one will miss him. We'll take care of this. Victor, you go home. Go back to your room. Clean up. This did not happen. We will keep this secret of what you did here today. And he puts his hand on your shoulder and he says, Victor, don't worry. We'll take care of this. And we will call you brother.
I think Mawgrim, like, the tears are just kind of streaming down his face at this point. And he's just like almost catatonic in shock, but he will do exactly as Fallon is saying. Like, how could he resist? Like, what else could he do except just go along with exactly this?
As you leave the dueling grounds and heading back towards your dorm, probably in sort of a panic, as you're not really paying attention to where you're going. You're kind of an autopilot. You hear Fallon call out and says, tell no one. This is a secret between us. We will protect you.
Yeah, I think Mawgrim wouldn't even respond, but he's going to like, how could I possibly tell anybody about this? I killed someone. No one will know of this. Like, I'll never, ever tell a soul about this.
Well, as Mawgrim leaves the dueling ground, this memory fades. Years go by. Mawgrim is now a full member of the Krahennest. How does he feel carrying that secret into his more adult life?
I think he probably feels like a grim sense of obligation, right? Like, where even if there are things he disagrees with when it comes to the actions of the Krahennest, they've got some serious dirt on Mawgrim now. So it's like, well, I, of necessity, am a brother in this brotherhood, whether I want to be or not. Like, almost like a perverted way of thinking of the whole, like, blood is thicker than water. Yeah, in this case, blood truly is thicker than water. And so he is part of this organization, whether he likes to be or not.
Yeah. Well, at this point, as Mawgrim is probably 26 or 27, does he like being a part of this organization?
No. So at this point, 26, 27, right? So we're like 5-6 years jumping forward in time. He's probably been campaigning and doing like combat medic work as a member of the Inquisition. And it's brutal. The Inquisition was essentially almost like small warfare, against small villages and groups that were suspected of harboring or containing magic users.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they would take these people for questioning, but they would kill a lot of people or destroy a lot of homes in the process. And I think he's a little bit disillusioned about what it means to be a member of the Krahennest at this point.
Yeah, well, we are jumping forward into a time that, you are on campaign. You've done different campaigns. Sometimes they're 6 months, sometimes they're 3 months, sometimes they're a whole year. At this point, you have been on campaign. This is not the Necropurge of Loxania Forest. This is more traditional, I guess you could say, Krahennest activity, Inquisition activity, going and trying to find magic users or evil, however it may be found, and trying to purge it. And at this point, you are a member of a Krahennest army, sort of a company, probably about 100 different Krahennest folk who are moving through. You are moving through the Fogvale Fens. This is a kind of an area between Vekgard and Wadeport. Both of these are still in the Pithrian barony, but you're heading more down south to where the wetlands start to dry out, and you actually are about to enter into the Varian Marches, which is the next barony over. But for the Krahennest, barony boundaries don't really matter. You have a mission, you have a calling, and wherever you go, you have this obligation to spread the word of Aona and to purge those areas of evil and of undead, whatever it may be. And you are in this small village, sort of an unnamed village, really. I mean, the people there, they call it Whitebrook, but then some other people call it Springdale. And it's this small little community that doesn't really have its own leadership. It just kind of is a collection of homes of these people who've banded together. There's a couple of farms. There is a blacksmith there, but really it's pretty rural. And you guys have been moving through this area because you've been hearing rumors. And the rumor you guys have heard is that there is a spirit that has been haunting this small village. And you arrive here with a small contingent of this company. There are 3 other Krahennesti with you. There is Falden, who is this dwarven warrior. You see that there is Orion, who is a human warrior, and then you see this halfling woman named Mengilda, and she's more of a researcher slash not really a field medic like you, but more investigation and trying to do a lot of research onto why these things are happening. So whereas you might be doing more of your battlefield medicine, she is doing a more investigating as to, okay, why would this spirit be haunting this town, for example? And her name is Mengilda.
Got it.
So you are approaching this small collection of houses, and Falden and Orion, they are very blunt. And so I imagine, Mawgrim, oftentimes you feel the need to take the lead when it comes to speaking with people, if you want to try to get off on a good foot with people. Basically, Falden or Orion, they would most likely just walk into town and start accusing people. And more than once in these campaigns, you have seen homes and villages burn simply because of lack of or miscommunication. So you have pretty much started taking up the role of speaker for this small group. And you can see that there are these houses that are all kind of clustered together around this little brook that runs down through this village. And off kind of to the south, there is a sort of a gated off area that looks to be some sort of old cemetery. It's quite large. It looks like almost the size of the rest of the village put together. You gather there must be people having lived here for a very long time, and they all have been kind of burying their dead here in this same cemetery. It has grown over the decades and maybe even centuries, as this graveyard has grown to the point where it is almost as large as the rest of the town. But you see, there are people moving about in this village. You see that there's like a woman who is beating her rug as you approach. And as she looks over and sees you all in your black leathers, she instantly goes back into her house and shuts the door, leaving her rug out, even though it is starting to drizzle and rain. You see other people moving about, like herding some sheep and getting them from one sort of grassy area to another. And you can see that right there by the graveyard, you see this old man is standing there. And as you approach, he actually waves to you.
I think, given everything that Mawgrim's seen over the last little while, anybody like the lady going inside and leaving her rug to just like get wet and potentially ruined, that's normal. Like, that's par for the course. The fact that somebody would wave to him, I think, is like, bro, what's this about? And so I think he would immediately clue in and start walking over that way, like holding a hand up, like as a salutation, to be like, hey, want to chat for a second.
He takes his hat off and he kind of holds it in his hands. He's wringing it in his hands and he's like, Are you here on, are you the Aeonan Inquisitors? Are you here because of the rumors?
Yes, we have heard some rumors, and indeed, we have come to investigate.
The spirit is, it's scaring us at night. It makes so much noise. It keeps us up. It's hard to sleep. Our animals, they're restless as well. My cow stopped producing milk. Please, if you can help us, please help us.
Whatever we can do to help, of course. Aeona considers things of this nature to be an abomination, and we have a sworn obligation to try to put down such disturbances if we can. Rest assured, we'll take care of this. Why don't you please... can you tell me where you hear some of these things coming from, or any information that may be helpful?
As you ask that question, you see Falden and Orion, the two kind of warriors. They're looking around, looking for potential problems. Whereas Mengilda, this halfling woman, she actually has out like a journal, and she has a quill, and she's ready to start writing. As you ask this question, he says, there is a crypt on the further south. It is in the newer area of the cemetery, and we hear the howling coming from there at night, but it's so loud we can hear it all the way here amongst the houses. And then Mengilda speaks up and she's like, has anyone seen this spirit? And he says, oh yes, we've seen her. And she says, and what does the spirit look like? And he says, it's a woman, and her feet don't touch the ground. She glows, and she screams, and I've only seen her one time, and she looked in my direction, and I ran. And Mengilda starts taking more and more notes, and then she looks over at you.
Well, I thank you for your time, sir. If you'd kindly please shelter indoors for the time being. Is it like getting late in the day? Are we in the afternoon, or?
Yeah, you're in the afternoon. He does say it comes out at night. Once the sun is completely down and the moon is visible in the sky, then that's when she appears.
Got it.
And he kind of bows and he says, "Thank you, thank you so much." He says, "I'm Donald Strout."
Donald, we thank you for your information and your assistance. We'll be sure to make a note of how helpful you have been during this investigation. I would kindly ask you to stay in your home for the rest of the evening, and you should be safe to come back out in the morning time.
Thank you. And he moves off, and as he's heading towards his house, he's kind of hustling. He's an old man, so he limps a little bit, but he's hustling away, and he kind of looks back over his shoulder at the four of you, and then you see him go into one of the homes there in the middle of this little town. You can see as you turn back towards the graveyard that most of these are just your classic tombstone, or even like a slab, tomb marker. There's even some wooden crosses and stuff like that, just very simple. But you do see that there is this sort of mausoleum crypt thing. It's not like huge. Like if you were to walk in there, and probably two people could stand in there next to each other if there's a coffin in there. So it's not this massive like ornate building, but there is like one sort of larger crypt area.
Got it. What was the name of the halfling again? The researcher? It was
Mengilda.
Mengilda. Okay. I think Mawgrim would turn to Mengilda and say, well, Mengilda, do you have any initial thoughts? Do we think this is a legitimate instance of perhaps some sort of a poltergeist or magical incantation, or is this just another prank?
She says, well, he seemed quite upset about this. What he was describing, it could be any number of specters, but it's a woman, so it has a shape, a humanoid shape, which tells us some things. It's not this shadow or sort of a vague impression, which tells us some things. The story about the cow not producing milk, that piqued my curiosity. She says, all in all, I think it's best if we definitely do more investigation tonight. And honestly, between you and me, just the feeling after having done this for so long, I think tonight's going to be a busy night.
I fear that you are correct. Okay, let us make preparations. Perhaps if we can have it avoid the village this time, I think that would be preferable, no?
Yeah. Yes, let's I think we should set up close to the crypt if that's where she's appearing from initially, and maybe we can stop her there. Yes, this is you can see that she's kind of lost in thought. She starts thumbing through her book, and you can see this is something that happens often. She goes, "Yes, yes," and she starts wandering off into the graveyard, nose in book.
Yeah, I think Mawgrim will be like, oh, okay. And he'll just go about his work, which will be to kind of prep the rest of the group. He's no like platoon leader, captain per se, but probably as the medic of the group, he has a certain amount of kind of influence or sway. So he'll kind of tell them what the plan is or kind of where they're going, at least so they can then organize themselves accordingly.
Well, very, very good. Let's see. You guys all set up. Orion and Falden, they have been sort of walking around the crypt and trying to find areas that might be good for taking cover. It's hard to trap a spirit if this is some kind of a spirit, but they have certain tactics that they've used in the past. Mengilda keeps walking around this crypt and looking at all the different names.
As long as they don't cross the streams, right? I think that's the biggest issue. Is they
exactly. Well, Mengilda's is looking at the names on the that are on this crypt, and as you are making your preparations, at one point, Mengilda says, "Huh? What did he say his name was?"
Donald, I believe.
Yeah, what was his last name? Strout, and she points to the crypt, and you can see that there's multiple people, different niches and stuff in here, and you can see that one of the names that's on this plaque is Matilda Strout.
Oh, interesting. Is there a date next to her name? Let's see.
Yeah, you look, and it's 4 years ago is her death date.
Huh. How old was he? Was he a pretty old guy?
He was old. Yeah, he was old. I mean, in medieval times, he'd be 50, but like the equivalent of like a 75-year-old or whatever.
Yeah,
that was a joke about how people in medieval times didn't live very long.
They died real quick.
By the way, I found out that Mother Bear from the Berenstain Bears is only 29.
What?
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's possible, but yeah, no, that's weird.
Anyway, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think Mawgrim would probably make some offhanded comment like, 4 years ago, something tells me I doubt that this was his mother.
She's like, yeah, more likely a spouse or more likely a spouse. All right, you guys are here at the graveyard making your preparations. The sun falls, the moon shows up in the sky. It is a half moon tonight, but the sky is, sort of the clouds that they drizzle and then they move past, and then like later on another one will come in, it'll drizzle and then it'll move past. So you keep getting these glimpses of the moon and then it disappears for a while. So the graveyard becomes very, very dark. And then it lights up again and then it becomes very, very dark. Is there anything specific that Mawgrim would do to prepare before a potential spirit comes out of this crypt?
For him, he doesn't really like have magic or anything like that. So he doesn't really have a means of trying to fight against a spirit. Mm-hmm. So he's all about, he's prepping his bandage kits. He's prepping pain relieving darts and other things so he can try to keep people in the fight in case they start to get damaged. He does have some different types of things he can weaponize, like toxic venoms and paralyzing venoms and things like that. And he probably has some of those just in case those may be helpful. But that's about it. He's probably just prepping his medical supplies in case he needs to rush in to help people.
You are sitting here watching this crypt, but also kind of watching around you to make sure nothing comes up from behind. There's been stories of Krahennest going into these small villages and getting ambushed by sometimes the villagers. Sometimes the Krahennest don't make it home, but it's not because of fighting the evil, but it's about the rumors of things that they have done in the past that villagers don't want to have happen to them, the burning homes and things like that. But as you are looking around, making sure that nothing's coming up from behind you, suddenly you hear this this loud kind of moan starts coming. It sounds like it's coming from the crypt, but it's also sort of all around you. Orion, this human warrior, he says, "Be ready," as this figure rises up out of this crypt. You see this sort of glowing blue, but also transparent woman. She has a dress on that is frayed at the edges. She is not touching the ground. It's not the librarian from Ghostbusters, though. Is that what you were thinking?
That was immediately what I was thinking.
Okay. No, you see that her hair is kind of blowing around her like she's in the water almost, but her mouth is open and her eyes are wide. And you can see that there is this sort of scream, this moan and scream coming from her throat. And before anything else happens, we are going to roll initiative.
Let's do this. Oh, a mighty 10.
A mighty 10? All right. And here's what we are going to do. I am going to have you... Here, let's do this. I'm going to get the order going. It is going to be Falden, Orion, Mawgrim, Spirit, Mengilda. Okay. This spirit rises up as Falden, this dwarf warrior, comes rushing towards it, and it is floating kind of above the ground, but he's able to So Felden rushes up and he's got this axe that he pulls off of his back and he goes to take a swing, and let's see what happens. And it's like she is sort of transparent and she's floating, and he manages to swing and miss, as then Orion draws a longsword and a shield off of his back as he comes moving in a little bit more defensively. But as he approaches this spirit, he takes a swing and he misses as well. That brings us now to Mawgrim. Mawgrim, it is your turn. You see this sort of ethereal, incorporeal figure floating. What are you going to do?
Okay. I see that they're already trying to fight this thing. Probably what Mawgrim will do is he will... I call this his frequency modulated neural stimulant. And this is for dealing with the undead, which has not happened too terribly often, but has happened from time to time during the Inquisition.
Okay.
Nothing quite like the Loxanian Necropurge, which was like large scale zombie apocalypse style.
Right.
But this is, he basically has an artifact that was given to him that's like a symbol of Iona that has like almost like a magical, activation, on it, that when he activates it, it will turn the undead to make them run away in terror. So this is my reflavoring of turn undead.
Okay, very cool. So then this spirit will need to make a wisdom save. Is that what it is?
Yes, it's a DC 13 wisdom save.
Okay, with a save of 7, this spirit lets out this scream, and you can tell it's loud, but is incredibly terrified of you. And now it has to use its movement to move as far away from you as possible as it goes flying away. Does it dash as well?
It says it can only use the dash action to try to escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. For its action, it can only use the dash action.
Okay.
And then if there's nowhere to go, it can use the dodge action. Okay.
Well, then it moves 80 feet away from you as it flies away. It is now on the very edge of the graveyard. And it is now Mengilda's turn. Mengilda looks at you and then looks back at this spirit, pulls out a crossbow, and she is going to take a couple shots as it's fleeing, one shot as it's fleeing, and is going to hit. So this spirit is hit and is going to take, the light crossbow is going to take 8 damage. So 8 damage to this spirit, and it is now back up to the top of the initiative order. We have Orion and Falden. They look back at you and they kind of nod, and then they both will kind of step back towards you guys, and they're going to both ready actions if this spirit approaches again. And it is now your turn again. This spirit is no longer turned because it was hit by the crossbow bolt, but it is now like 80 feet away from you guys.
Got it. I think Mawgrim, seeing that it's no longer turned, he will be like, crap, and he will put away the symbol and start moving forward, and he'll pull out his own crossbow and try to make a shot with his own crossbow.
Yeah, perfect.
Gosh, a nat 1 for a 2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it goes wide. This is he's
still pretty
undead.
Green.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen undead, but this is a straight up a spirit that's been haunting this village, and you're trying to shoot it with a crossbow. That just kind of seems kind of silly. All right, it is now the spirit's turn. It is going to move back 40 feet. It is now within 40 feet of you. What I need is I need you to make a difficulty 13 wisdom saving throw.
Ooh, okay.
As suddenly the face of this spirit goes from looking like a woman to suddenly the eyes are huge and bloodshot. The mouth gapes open. There are sharp teeth. It lets out a scream, and there's a potential that you're going to be frightened.
Okay. Let's see how we do. Ooh, I got an 11.
Got an 11.
You
Guess
said
what, Mawgrim?
13, I think, right?
It's a 13. You are now frightened. So you cannot move closer to this creature, and you have disadvantage as long as you can see this creature. And that will last for a minute. Okay. It is now Mangilda's turn. Just so you are aware, it looks like Orion and Felden both passed, but Mangilda, this halfling sort of researcher, she failed her save as well. So she can't move any closer to you. She looks at you, Mawgrim, and she says, "Oh, what the hell are we doing here?" And then she's going to turn and try to take another attack against the Banshee. She's going to roll with disadvantage, and she rolls a natural 1. And then with her movement, she turns and runs back towards the village as she's trying to get away from this spirit. All right, we are back up to the top of the round, and it is Falden and Orion's turn. They both manage to save as they rush towards this spirit, and they are both going to attack. And Falden will hit with his axe, dealing 12 slashing damage. This thing has taken now 20 damage. Orion misses, but has his shield up to try to protect himself. Mawgrim, it's your turn. You are frightened. What are you going to do?
Okay, I think Mawgrim is like fumbling around in his kit, and he's going to pull out a bolt cluster, which is like a rapid fire ammo clip, if you will, that he can kind of plug into his little hand crossbow that will rapidly shoot out 4 different bolts, and he's going to attempt to shoot this at this thing. So we'll roll this with disadvantage to hit. It didn't do the... Oh no, I guess an 8. Those are the rolls to hit.
It's going to miss as this thing is you're terrified of it, and it is now this thing's turn. Is there anything else that you want to do before this spirit gets to move again?
No, I think that's kind of it. But I mean, that definitely sucks. I think he's like cursing under his breath as the bolts like all shoot off and go wide.
Okay. All right. Mawgrim, you are still about 40 feet back from this spirit. This spirit looks down at Falden and Orion, and as they have been attacking it, suddenly you see the jaw, this frightening jaw, grows larger and larger, and the moan and wail that this thing has been emitting the whole time suddenly grows ear-splittingly loud. And you are far enough away that all it does is makes your ears ring. Orion and Falden are close enough that they are going to have to make Constitution saving throws. Falden the dwarf made his save. Orion the human with the sword and shield instantly falls down dead. 0 hit points.
Okay.
Falden takes 9 psychic damage. All right. It is now Mangilda's turn again. She is going to try to make her save. Natural 20. She is no longer afraid of this, well, let's just call it what it is, this banshee. As she turns around and is about ready to get back into the fight, we're back up to the top. Falden is going to take an attack with his great axe again and is going to hit and deal 11 damage. That is now 31 damage that this banshee has taken. Orion is dying.
Okay.
Orion is actively dying and is going to make a death saving throw and fail with a 4. You see the blood draining out of Orion's face, and it looks like it's actually coming out of his ears and nose as he lies there on the ground. I should have had you make this save at the end of your last turn, now that it's your turn again. So go ahead and make the save now to see if you are still afraid of this banshee.
Yeah. wisdom save?
Wisdom save, difficulty 13.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I don't know why it rolled with advantage, but the 24.
Okay, so your frightened condition went away at the end of your last turn, so now it is your turn again. You see this banshee is dealing havoc to your allies, who are these warriors, but you also see you're a field medic, basically, and you see one of your allies is down and in very bad shape. What are you going to do?
Yeah. So Mawgrim, seeing that, you said it was Orion that dropped, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Seeing that, I mean, he would snap immediately into like doctor mode, and he would grab with his left hand kind of his pile of like, it's like a rapid clotting silver nitrate kind of thing, right? Something that can quickly cauterize wounds. And then in his right hand, he's pulling out a plunger that he has, like a synthetic adrenaline that he's created. And he's just charges up and is going to administer this basic bandage kit, this kind of rapid bandage kit to Orion.
Okay.
And with this one, because of Mawgrim's emergency resuscitation expertise, he is able to heal this guy for the maximum healing that he can with this. So it'll heal for 11. And coincidentally, I rolled maximum too, so that's cool.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, very good. You see Orion's eyes flutter open as he looks at you and he says, "Thank Aona, Mawgrim." And then he is now awake and prone, but he's awake. It is now the Banshee's turn. The Banshee has 3 targets to choose from now: Mawgrim, Orion, and Falden. It is going to take a swing at Orion, who is down there prone. With advantage, is going to strike it. Yep, Orion gets hit with a 19 to hit and is going to take some damage. That is going to be 3d6 plus 2. That is going to be only 8 damage. Orion is still alert, still alive. But you see that where this banshee touches him, you see the skin start to like fester and ooze as it is instantly just necrotic tissue. And then it is now going to be, Mengilda's turn. And she is going to take another shot with her crossbow and totally whiff. All right, we have Orion and Falden jump up. They start swinging with their weapons. Falden misses, Orion misses. It is your turn. This banshee is in front of you. What are you going to do, Mawgrim?
All right, we're going to turn to this banshee thing, and he's going to take a satchel, like a little pouch that he has with it's like a sulfur compound, and he's going to toss this at this banshee thing. She'll need to make a DC 13 dex save, or she'll take some damage.
Okay, she rolled a natural 16.
Okay, she definitely does not take any damage from that. And then as a bonus action, he's going to use another like a painkiller plunger and plunge that into Orion to heal Orion for an additional 5 points of healing.
Nice. All right. And then Mengilda is going to go. She is going to shoot her crossbow again. This time she's going to hit again, and this time it's going to be 10 more damage. So that is going to be 42 damage. This banshee is starting to look more insubstantial as the battle continues. Mawgrim, this event in your life, you've had close calls before. This is, I think, one of your first times really being confronted with sort of an otherworldly threat that at some point seemed totally overpowering.
Yeah.
And as you think back on this memory, I imagine the fight kind of gets lost in the mist of memory. But you would remember that eventually this banshee dissipates. It is dealt so much damage that it can't even keep its sort of spiritual incorporeal form together as it lets out one final weak wail and scream as you guys have been just swinging and shooting it and trying everything you can to stop it from haunting this small town. I think, Mawgrim, the memory, though, that sticks with you most about this event is afterwards. Afterwards, when Orion and Falden and even Mengilda all agree that this spirit would not have risen up on its own. No, somebody must have done something to try to bring this spirit about, try to maybe raise a lost loved one, maybe bring their wife back from the dead. And Mawgrim, I think that the memory you keep most from this event is seeing the home of Donald Strout burning as the old man is...
Oh, dude, that's gnarly.
As his body is silhouetted by these flames as he hangs from a gibbet, dead. This small town.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dude,
so,
that is dark and like I kind of love it, but
kind of love it, but hate it at the same time.
Oh yeah.
All right, Mawgrim, we know a little bit about sort of how he left the Krahennest. We just learned that recently in one of our recent episodes about Regina and the experiments and the birth of the Navorians and all of this. But at some point from there until we meet Mawgrim in our story, there's about 15 years of traveling. And at some point, probably 6 or 7 years after Mawgrim has left the Krahennest, as he is traveling from place to place, kind of staying on the outskirts of civilization, as Mawgrim is moving around about 5 or 6 years after he leaves the Krahennest, after he leaves Bergevin in his flight, he is in this small town that is called... Why do I always want to do like gum flavors? It's called Juicy Fruit. No, he's in a small town called Pinewood, and it is in the Siren Valley. Now, the Siren Valley is a place in the campaign that we haven't been to yet, but it is this river valley that runs down between two mountain ranges, and it is a narrow barony, but it is incredibly important for travel between the northern part of the kingdom and the southern part of the kingdom. But moving through the Siren Valley, you are in this small town of Pinewood, and you're just kind of going about your normal routine. What would that look like as you are traveling from place to place and you are in this small village of Pinewood?
You know, he's trying to make a little bit of money as like a traveling physician, but he's trying to also keep a low profile, especially if he's, you know, as close to main thoroughfares as he would be kind of traveling up and down the valley. He knows that it's likely he's going to see Krahennest like troop movement or Inquisition movements. So he's trying to keep a low profile. Plague Mask is tucked in his backpack. You know, he's bought a different type of overcloak so that way it doesn't, his black leather one, even though he favors it because it's very useful, he just tries not to carry those things out in the open. So he probably keeps to himself, doesn't talk much. And when he hears that there's like medicinal needs, he may brew potions or he may help treat the sick in different towns in exchange for food and lodging and maybe a little bit of gold.
Okay. All right. Well, you are in this small town of Pinewood, and you happen to be at the home of the local, I guess, herbalist would be the best word for her. Her name is Flory. She is a middle-aged woman. She's got children. Her husband is out. He is a lumberjack. He does logging further out in the valley. And so she is oftentimes home alone for stretches of time with her children, and to sort of help make ends meet, she grows a lot of herbs and different medicinal plants. And her name is Flory, and you happen to be in her home currently as you are trying to restock some of your wares. And she's like, so we've got some mandrake root. So this is some of the stuff you were looking for, I think. What else did you say you needed?
So, are you familiar with deathcap mushrooms?
Oh, death cap. I'm sorry. We stay away from the death cap mushrooms. We don't find much need of them.
Do. I'm glad that you do. There is an element within them that can be very useful to distill for pain reliever. So it can be useful in small quantities. Certainly don't try to eat it or try to make medicine yourself. I have many years of practice doing this, but if you know I might be able to gather some.
I mean, I'm not exactly sure. We've always just stayed away from them, but if you... I also do a lot of the sort of the mending of the animals, and I help out here with birthing, and I help with people when they're sick or when they're injured. I do a lot of the medicine here. Could you maybe teach me how to handle these death cap mushrooms? I'd be very interested in learning.
Mawgrim's a little hesitant too. He's like, perhaps I can do this. It's very dangerous, you see. If you don't prepare it correctly, you could kill someone. There's a reason they call them death cap mushrooms. But in the right dilution, yes, it's possible. The way that I distill it down and dilute it into an alcohol substrate, it allows for just a little bit of the toxin to actually allow to avoid the sensations of pain that others might feel, and it's quite useful to treat pain and other matters for people.
Anything in too much of quantity can be deadly. You can even drink too much water and die from water. But I understand your point. Death cap mushrooms are not something to take lightly. I just was thinking, when you're gone, and you're not, I would love to be able to help the people of my village as much as possible. And anything you could do to help teach me, I'd really appreciate. But regardless, let's look at that list again. What else is it you need? And you and Flory spend a little time talking trade. You get some of the ingredients that you're looking for, so you can make some of your concoctions and your potions and that sort of thing. And after half an hour, 40 minutes of talking with Flory, you go your way. There is this small hostel, this sort of house that you can stay in. The way that it works in a lot of these small villages and things is that people will have you stay in their barn, or sometimes people will just have you stay in their home, and you'd pay them if they don't have like a full-blown inn or a tavern. But this, because you're sort of on a main thoroughfare, even though you're trying to stay, under the radar, there is this sort of hostel that you can stay at, and it's actually free. It's just almost like, did you ever go to scout camp and stay in an Adirondack where it's just 3 walls of a cabin, and then there's like bunk beds inside?
Sort of. Yeah. I've kind of done stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more like a shed or something with just some like bunks in there, and that is where you were planning on staying the night tonight. And so I imagine you go back to your bunkhouse to see about getting some rest, so you can move on in the morning. Mawgrim, as you lie in your bunk, there's a couple other people in here that have been traveling the road as well, but it's pretty empty. You hear a commotion outside. It sounds like voices, but they're distant. So that means that they're loud, but you can't hear what they're saying because you're too far from them.
Interesting. I think Mawgrim would he wouldn't immediately get up, but he would, and he may not even open his eyes necessarily or like try to make sudden moves, but he's going to be very clued in, and he's also going to be recalling immediately, like, where did I put my hand crossbow? How many files of white phosphorus do I have since last I was able to create some? And so he's like kind of doing a mental note in case he needs to like defend himself or make a quick escape.
Okay. Yeah. You are sort of planning in your head of what to do. And suddenly you hear, instead of just commotion, you actually start to hear some screaming and yelling coming from other members of this little village. If you do open your eyes, which I'm sure you eventually do, kind of look.
Yeah, at this point, I think you would probably very much start to look.
You see the glow of, you can't really see like what's making the glow, but you see like firelight. It looks like maybe like a bunch of torches or something. You see that back more, because this bunkhouse is sort of it's on the main thoroughfare, but it's not really like in the middle of town. It's more like on one end of town. And you can see that back more into the interior of this village, you see that there is this glow, and you actually, as you look, you see silhouettes of people moving about hurriedly as you are lying there in this bunkhouse.
I think seeing the people moving around quickly and seeing the glow of what looks like maybe torchlight, I think he's going to hop out of his bed and quickly start gathering his gear and seeing if he can't, as stealthily as he can, which is not super stealthy, but as stealthily as he can, he's going to try to assess the situation and maybe see if he needs to get out of there in the middle of the night.
Yeah, as you start gathering your things, there's another person lying here when these bunks, like, oh, what do you think it is? What's going on? Should we like get out of here?
No idea, but I don't know. Perhaps. I'll tell you what. If it's something that we need to get out of town for, I'll come back and let you know.
Thanks. I appreciate it. He's now sitting up in his bunk and he's just kind of like looking in that direction. You can see just like the curiosity versus the fear. It's like, do I want to go? Do I not? And he's just like stuck in one place trying to figure out if he wants to go or if he wants to stay. Okay. All right. You start moving out of this bunkhouse.
Yeah. I start kind of making my way, not directly through the dead center of town, but along the outskirts as best I can to kind of get a better vantage of what's happening.
Are you trying to move stealthily?
Yeah. Relatively speaking, I think.
Why don't you make a stealth check with advantage, as it is dark and definitely everyone else's attention is on something else.
All right, I need to take off my scale mail because I do not have scale mail on technically at this point. Advantage. I got a 13.
Okay. That's pretty good. Especially considering that, most of the people here in this village would just be considered commoners. As you start moving to try to assess, you see that the glow is getting brighter. Suddenly you hear a scream, and then you hear over the noise of all this kind of the general hubbub, you hear somebody say, "Not my house." And then you come around the corner and you can see Flory's home and shop. And you see that the thatch roof is on fire. You see that the village has sort of, they're staying back away from the house a good probably 30 or 40 feet. Nobody's approaching the house. You see Flory, though, is on her knees looking at her house. You see her children are, they're all together in a group, but they are surrounded by adults. Figures in black leather ulster coats. You see hats and as one of these figures turns their head, you see the distinctive beak mask silhouetted against the fire of this house. You see that next to Flory, you see that there is another one of these figures with one of these masks on, and you can't hear what is being said, but it looks like the person is talking to Flory, who then turns around and looks up at this figure, and you see her spit at this figure. Mawgrim, at this point, what do you do? There are, at this point, just trying to figure out who is who. As far as these silhouettes, you know for sure that there are 5 silhouettes here that are obviously Krahennest, and then the other figures moving around that you can't get a good look at because of like the contrast of the fire versus the darkness. You're not sure how many there are, but at least 5. What are you gonna do?
I mean, Mawgrim, he's going to hate himself for it, and he knows he's going to hate himself for it, but he starts to pull back, and he starts to turn his back on Flory and the events and try to get out of there.
All right. As Mawgrim moves off into the dark, the firelight left behind him, suddenly your eyes start to adjust better. You start to move off through the trees. You know that if you head north for a good, half mile, you can veer to the left and you can get back onto the main road, and you can probably make pretty good time because it's a pretty clear night as far as like the travel conditions. It's not rainy or anything like that. What you miss, Mawgrim, is you miss these children being taken from their home to who knows where. And you see, again, Flory now is strung up in front of her home, and a plaque is placed on the gibbet. Is it gibbet or gibbet? I think it's a gibbet.
Yeah. I am in no place to opine, so it sounds good to me.
There you go. You see a plaque placed on the gibbet, and it says, heretic, practicing magics, may Aona guide her soul. And you leave Pinewood as this home burns, and this mother hangs, and her children disappear to who knows where besides the Krahennest. And as Mawgrim continues his... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Mawgrim feels such bitter resentment and self-loathing that he just ran away instead of trying to fight. Also, the conflict of but if I would have fought, I probably would have died too. And just, kind of the mixed jumble of guilt and frustration and anger that he would feel would be really intense, and not something that he's felt, unfortunately, infrequently. I think he's run into not this exact situation, but probably many times he has felt powerless and having to just turn his back on people in need because it was too dangerous.
All right. Well, Mawgrim, we now know a little more of his history, of why he is how he is and what he has done in his past up until the beginning of the Course of the Forsaken campaign. And that's where we're going to stop for tonight. So thank you so much for playing, Jordan.
We didn't even get into his urine stuff. So I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to go this whole time.
I was also like, okay, do we need to talk about when the Hinky Punk first shows up? We didn't even get to that either. So there's definitely more of Mawgrim's backstory that we don't know, but I'm glad we got to play through some of it and learn a little bit more about what drives him and a little bit more about who he is. So thank you so much for playing, Jordan. And if you like what we're doing, which you obviously do because you're listening, and this is episode 70 of our...
You do. You dirty dogs. You know you love it.
Yeah, then go check out our Patreon. You can see maps of these areas that I was talking about. You can also listen to your neighbor's potatoes. And don't forget to go leave us a rating and a review. And also buy some merchandise at our shop. And when we get together next time, we should be fighting a giant frog, which I am really looking forward to. But until we get together next time, we hope you have a great time.